Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the Rome in America podcast. If you can hear that background noise, just ignore it. I'm in the car right now. But anyways, before we get into it, make sure to hit the like button and hit the subscribe button. That would help me out a lot, very much. So I'm going to talk about something that happened a little over a week ago. So, it's a little bit late, but I'm going to talk about it anyways. So, two things that happened. So, one, I probably told you a couple episodes ago that I was going to the Libertarian Party's national convention, not the national convention, the Wisconsin statewide convention, and that's what I did. This was about 9 to 10 days ago. So, yeah, a little over a week ago. And overall, it was kind of uneventful. I mean, there really weren't too many people. There was probably 20, 25 people there. There wasn't a whole lot of people there. It was a pretty small event, but basically the main reason I went up there is because I wanted to see Scott Horton's speech, and that's what I did. I, sat there for a little over an hour, listened to his speech, and, it was a good speech, and really wasn't much to it. But basically the speech was about essentially the Middle East and the war that's going on in the Middle East. That was basically the whole shtick behind his speech, and it was pretty good, honestly. Really wasn't much to it, but it was pretty good. And basically the thing about it is that I guess what I don't know. There's really not much to it, so I guess I could tell you what really happened. So basically, I went up there, I got situated into my hotel room. It was actually more of a dorm, and then I we got dinner, viewed his speech right after. Then afterwards, I went and met him and actually bought one of his books I didn't have. So it's a book called Hotter Than the Sun, Time to Abolish Nuclear Weapons. So for those who haven't read it, and I haven't read it either, I bought it while I was there, so I haven't read it. But basically the format of the book is that it's not an organized book like his books Provoked or Enough Already. This book basically is just a list, a compilation of transcripts from interviews that he's had over the years about nuclear weapons and stuff like that, and nuclear energy and all that stuff. And so, I'm gonna get cracking on it. I'm gonna try to read it a little bit and see what it's like. So yeah, we'll see how that goes. But I bought one of his books, and then I spent about 2 hours or so hanging out with him by the fire in the back of the building. Excuse me. And so that was pretty good. And so, yeah, there really wasn't much to it, but basically, and then, I pretty much did nothing all day Saturday, and then came back on Sunday. And so, yeah, there really wasn't much to it, but it was pretty good. I was glad I got to go up there, got to meet him, got to buy one of his books, got to hang out with him afterwards, and overall, it was just really good. Really good experience, and I really do hope to see him again someday, because honestly, anyone who wants to do a deep dive on the history of American foreign policy, both in Eastern Europe and the Middle East, definitely would recommend Scott Horton. I mean, this guy is a walking, breathing encyclopedia. Like, this guy literally knows what he's talking about, honestly. And so, yeah, I really thought it was great. It was really awesome. And then, essentially, what happened was, that was the convention itself. And then there was a news event, and this is the other thing I wanted to talk about, which is that there was a news event which seems to have largely faded away over the past week, but it was pretty big for the first 2 to 3 days, maybe, after it happened, which was there was an attempted, which was that night, not Friday night, on Saturday night, there was an attempted assassination on Donald Trump. It was at the Washington Hilton Hotel, which was going to be the location for the White House Correspondents' Dinner, the annual dinner that they do every single year. And nobody was hurt, thankfully, and so I guess that's why the story has largely faded away over the past week. But nobody was hurt, but it really was kind of significant. You know, the shooter was subdued. He was apprehended, still alive. And I guess what it really goes to show is that, it's tough. It's tough because, as critical as I am of the Trump administration and all that stuff, I still would not celebrate something like that happening. It's not something to celebrate. And, of course, I guess the broader point that assassination underlines is that excuses and other stuff like that will be made by certain people, particularly by the left. There were tons of, immediately in that night and also the day after the shooting, there were tons of leftists who tried to claim that the shooting was staged, that it was a false flag or something, which I think is kind of silly, because if the Trump administration wanted to gain, sympathies, if they wanted with the American people, and they thought that a shooting would do that, then wouldn't it have been more severe? I mean, than it already was, because it really wasn't that severe. I mean, like I said, there were no deaths. Basically what happened was a guy ran past security out in the lobby of the hotel and started firing shots, and then security fired shots back at him, and before they subdued him. Nobody was killed. Pretty much nobody was hurt. There was one officer that got struck in the chest by a bullet, but luckily for him, he was wearing a bulletproof vest, and so he recovered almost immediately. So overall, nobody was hurt. But yeah, if it was a false flag, wouldn't the shooting have been more severe? Wouldn't have people have actually gotten hurt? Wouldn't that really have driven more sympathy? I don't know. People on the left are making excuses, and this is in the first time. I mean, we all saw this several months ago with the shooting against Charlie Kirk. Now, people have their own individual theories about what happened there, but the sentiment is the same, which is that, and of course, what they're trying to frame it as, once again, is if there's a shooting against someone who's by a left winger against someone who's right wing, somehow it's the right winger's fault. It's really, they try to play, that's the problem with the left in this country. They try to play this double game where if a right winger commits violence, then they themselves, the person who perpetrated the violence, is responsible, and also in response, and also by extension, Donald Trump is technically also responsible because he enabled that violence or incited it or whatever. However, if there's violence committed by a left winger against someone on the right, somehow Donald Trump is still also at fault because he's inflamed. Because he keeps turning the temperature up, as they would say. And so there's this, large double standard. And honestly, I don't really know how many people buy it, because you can't have it both ways. You can't claim that, they're responsible for if someone on the left gets shot, but also somehow they're still responsible if someone on their own side gets shot. It just doesn't make any logical sense whatsoever. And so, yeah, there's really not much to the story, other than it was an attempted assassination. The perpetrator didn't get very far. He wasn't very successful. And there really isn't much to it. I think, the motivation was pretty clear. I mean, people looked at this guy. It turns out he donated to Act Blue. He was, he voted for Kamala Harris in 2024. Standard left-winger from California. There's really not much to the story. But I guess the reactions to the story itself, to that news event, is the real story itself. And so, yeah, I guess that's really the only thing left. And so, yeah, that happened while I was up there, while I was at the convention. And so there's not much to it, but, that's what happened. And so, I guess really the only thing to say about it is that, people are going to be people at the end of the day, as crazy and as stupid as they are. And I really don't know how to respond to them. I don't know if you can deal with these people. I think that they're just making it increasingly clear that, you can't be nice with these people. You can't negotiate with these people because they just don't want to, they don't want to go. They don't want to negotiate. They don't want to be nice. They don't want to do any of that stuff. And so, really, at the end of the day, the only thing we can do is pray that this happens less and less. It doesn't happen very often, and I really hope it doesn't to anybody, because, I know this is becoming a sort of a talking point that people are being forced to say, but we condemn violence against people, and there's, really not much more to it other than, hey, condemn violence, pray it happens less and less, call out the people who need to be called out, and I don't know. So, yeah, I guess there's not much to that story, and then there's really not much to the convention other than I thought it was a great speech by Scott Horton, and, hey, if you haven't bought his books, buy his books. You haven't listened to any of his speeches or podcasts that he's done, go ahead and do that. You might want to also listen to a couple episodes of his radio show if you can, which, by the way, does get uploaded to YouTube every day, and so... or not every day, but it does get uploaded to YouTube every time an episode comes out. And so definitely check out his show, check out his podcast. He also has a Substack, I think. So if you have Substack, check that out too. And then also, check out his, and then also his show Provoked that he co-hosts with Daryl Cooper. That is every Friday evening, I believe, at 7 o'clock Central Time. So, make sure to check that out. And, so that is the story, and there's really not much to it. So that's what I wanted to talk about. I know it happened a little while ago, but I guess it was just worth talking about. So I guess I just wanted to do that. Check out Scott Horton if you can. Check out all the platforms that he's on. And that's about it. So, thanks for hanging out for this video, and make sure to hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, follow on, on YouTube and on Rumble, and other stuff like that. So, thanks for hanging out, and I will see you all in the next episode.